live stream, and I'm Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee on the 22nd of April, and it's about 8:32 in the morning. And the weather here, the Holy Land weather report, is 62 right now, 77 high. Looks like just straight up sunny all day. Let's see. What's our future weather report looking like? More of the same. A little cloudy on Friday, but we start getting into the 80s, and Saturday 87, and we drop a little bit, and they're back with the rain again. I don't know if it'll ever happen. Monday, 45% chance. Very iffy. It's quite a bit in the distance for Israel. They usually pretty good with rain for 48 hours. That's it. Then we get more sunny after that. So we might get rain that day, but I'm thinking it's probably not going to happen. And our temps will be in the 70s for a while. And then as we get towards the end of the month, we'll start getting in the 80s. May will start probably have very little or no rain, and we'll probably start hitting 89, 90, 91, that kind of thing. It won't get too hot. Okay. Today, what we're going to talk about is what Trump did. I mean, this is unbelievable. The Iranians didn't go to Pakistan. They told Trump they were not going. Vance canceled. I don't know about Witkoff and what's his name, Kushner. They might have been on a different flight, and they might have showed up. I don't know what happened. Iran did that, and then their reason was, we're not negotiating with you under duress. You're blockading the Persian Gulf. Well, let's not lose sight of their deceptions. They were blockading the Persian Gulf first. And then Trump just put his blockade to overrule their blockade. Okay? Their idea of a blockade was their ships go in and out, and the other ships got to pay a toll of $2 million if they want to go in and out. That's called a shakedown, okay? That's a shakedown. That's what it's referred to in New York anyway. You're shaking them down. You want to keep your store open, you got to buy our security services. It's $50 a month. You know, they used to go around and put little notes of advertising notes under the door of stores to hire their security service, and if you didn't hire their security service, they sent somebody around to like break your windows, or throw paint on your door, or do something nasty. The police finally knocked that stuff off. It was a shakedown. So Iran was doing a shakedown, so Trump said no. So Trump goes in. Is he doing a shakedown? No, he's trying to enable ships to pass freely. Of course, Iran's saying that they're blockading it at the same time as Trump, and they'll shoot at the ships, and they have. And now Iran's screaming they want the crew back from the ship Trump interdicted. So they said that Trump's ceasefire is meaningless, and what we're going to talk about is what's going to happen. And those of you in the United States and Europe that think nothing's going to happen, I suggest you think again. Or if I was going to phrase this another way, what could go wrong? All right. So we're going to get into all this, what to expect, and how it looks like it's going to develop, and what Trump is really up to. He's not out there really singing "Give Peace a Chance," while the Iwo Jima is chugging over here, over to the theater, and the Gerald Ford and the George Bush aircraft carrier groups are chugging over there, and weapons and other stuff are flying in. No, he's not. He's not playing the "Give Peace a Chance" song. No, no. It makes it look that way, but he's not really doing that. But what could go wrong? All right. Um, let's take a look at our live stream and make sure everything is nice. I don't hear sound. Do I have sound? I don't think so. Oh, I got sound. Do I have good sound? I'm not getting the best quality on the sound, but that's it seems to have cleared up. Okay. That's not me, it's them. All right. Boy, they made this text smaller here. It's giving me trouble. All right. I'm going to put a post up here. That's going to take seconds because it's real quick. Let's see if I got any typos that I could spot. Yeah, I believe I do. Let's see if I can get in there and fix it. No, it's messed up. I'm going to retype it. Fine. I was trying to go too fast. Okay. Okay. Let me pin this up. Okay, looks like we're good. Let's see people coming in. All right. Let me close this out. I do try to check during the broadcast for prayer requests and comments and questions, but since they've shrunk the text on that, it hurts my eye. It's hard for my eyes, but I'll try. All right. Being a Old Testament, New Testament site, let's do some prayer. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So, what can I tell you? Let's see. I did get the iPad, and I tried to transfer the data from the old one to the new one, and something distracted me while I had that turned on, and I thought that it would be okay, and I think it messed stuff up, and then I tried doing the cloud, and that was a waste of time. So I got to go back and delete all the data, do a clean scrub on the new iPad, and then get it to transfer from this one. And if that doesn't work, I'll see if I could do it with a cable. I don't know. If that doesn't work, I could transfer, I think, from an Android Samsung, and it probably have most of the stuff on there. So I'll try to get something done. If I can't, I'll have to return it and call it faulty. Because if I can't transfer data, I don't want the thing. It'll take a month or two to set it up. So I'll have to either send it for service or return it. But I'm not happy, but I may have caused it. So let me check. I got a news thing here. It'll take a second. Um, don't see anything worthwhile. Okay. I saw a YouTube that says that people only use 10% of Chat GPT, and I'm going to watch that and see what they say. I find Chat GPT is not that great for a lot of hard things, like how do I make this work? How do I make the microphone work? And they're not good for shopping either. They're supposedly good for things like thinking. Um, now I have the paid Chat GPT. I think if you really want to get these things for serious use, you need to get the paid version, which is a few bucks, and you get a much better system. And the Gemini I have in that one, I got it at AI Pro, which is about all you need, unless you're in, you're doing writing a lot of research where you're telling it to go read a 300-page book or something and then give you a summary, it could read a 300-page book, I think, in 20 seconds, maybe 15 seconds. I mean, it's immediate. I mean, I canceled Grok. I didn't think it served the purpose. I had a paid Grok. I think everything is paid in Grok unless you're testing it out. And I just wasn't using it. And I think Grok has a good one, but they charge, I think, $300 a month, approximately. And I certainly wouldn't pay that. I can't. Um, I had another one, I think it was called Monica or Veronica, I think, and it allowed you to use different platforms, but none of them were really working any good. The idea is when you use the same AI, they get to know you and they try to give you stuff you need the way you want it. So when you keep using it, you get a better rapport with them. But the Chat GPT, I don't know what's the problem with it. If you were trying to work on your car and you were saying, well, how do I get the valve cover off? It would probably tell you something that might not be right, or it might be right. but the Gemini would most likely be correct. Okay. So when it comes to, you could call it analysis or thinking, the Chat GPT tends to work. Let's say you wanted to buy a fan, okay? And they have different kinds of fan, a box fan on the floor, one on pedestals, hang from the ceiling. Some fans blow water in front, different in Israel they do. And you said, well, what's my best fan? And then you got to give it parameters. The temperature goes up to 103 typically, and I like to stay cool. And what is my best option? And on an affordable level, and give it the choices. If you tell it to go shopping for you and give you the choices, will it work? Yeah, sometimes. A lot of times. For instance, I bought some magnifying glasses to help me with small detailed work, right? So I bought some that they were saying at Amazon were 10 power. Okay. Now, you can go to Amazon if you want to buy a flashlight, and the good flashlights are measured in lumens. And you could buy in Amazon for $20 or $15 a Chinese flashlight with a character say has 1,000,000 lumens. Nobody has 1,000,000 lumens. It's impossible. And if they did, it would probably be, $2,500 or something. And they'll sell it to you for $15 or something. So, Amazon allows the sale of fraudulent products, misrepresented. Okay. Find this on eBay too. In eBay, what you might find is people complaining to eBay about it, and they may take it down because it's interfering with other sellers. Because they're saying, "Oh, we'll give you a flashlight that's 25 times stronger than the other guy for a tenth of the price," and it's hurting the sales of the other. So they complain to eBay that this is a fraud and all. So that's it's a little bit policed better. Okay. But you have a lot of people on eBay now. And this going back, I don't know, 15, 20 years, you didn't ever have this uh, that I knew about. People selling products they don't have. Okay. I mean, yeah, you can do this. You sell products that you don't have. And then when you get an order, you have to go out and buy the product. But you say that it takes 7 or 10 days to ship the order. And when you get the order in, you run out and buy the product and then you ship it. Okay. And eBay lets the sellers do that. And if, let's say, 10 days goes by and they still didn't ship it, eBay's going to tell you to wait 4 or 5 days. And then they probably send them an email that the customer is nervous or something. And they'll answer and say, well, the product I had was faulty. I have to get a new one. And then I'll ship the order. And eBay is tolerable. They tolerate that to a point. The shipper has to give you a delivery date, right? So let's say we're on the 22nd April. So the guy says, oh, I'll have it delivered to you. Let's say you're in America by May 1st or May 5th. Let's say May 5th to be more realistic, right? And then May 5th comes around and they give them an extension to May 12th, and then May 12th comes around, and then they cancel the order and refund you your money because they didn't give it to him yet. And he gets a strike as a seller, and if he gets a few of those, they drop. But you see that why am I telling you this? The degeneration of ethical anything in the world. Everybody assumes political leaders are going to lie. Okay, so back to the the magnifying glasses, and they believe that sellers are going to lie to you too. Amazon and all these others, they're going to lie to you. They're very So Amazon tries to put checks and balances in. They have reviews, but you got to be very, very careful with the reviews because the fraudulent sellers from Asia and other places can dummy up reviews, but there's a limit to it. If you see 8 or 9,000 reviews, well, I don't believe they dummy that up, but they could probably dummy up 100, 150. It's very bad. The situation. Scammers just sit there on this forever. Now, law enforcement against scammers, they're going to go put themselves in a jurisdiction where law enforcement's going to say they don't have enough time to pay attention to this and they're not going to do anything about it. Okay, so if you're in California, for instance, your local sheriff, let's say you're in LA, the local sheriff and the LAPD, they're busy with assaults, rapes, burglaries, carjacking, murders, drugs. They're not going to go bellyache and investigate some guy in Nebraska or Hong Kong or Belgium who says he got scammed by you on eBay or some other place. They're not going to do that. They're just going to ignore it. You think the FBI is going to go around? No. The only real penalty that is available is you'll lose your eBay account. That's all. So I go for these magnifying glasses and they say 10 power, 10x. And I'm analyzing the thing and they're like 2x or 3x. They outright lie. They outright lie. So then I went to AI and I started studying what was going on. And AI was saying that it's polite. It says it's marketing. In other words, they're lying. It's false and they say it's marketing, but they do say it's false. So I'm looking at these and why aren't they working? Well, they don't have enough power. So I learned about a brand of magnifiers, called Carson. And they are aspheric and they actually are honest. So I managed to find a place that had those. So they're much, much more than the junky magnet. If you just want to look a stamp or a coin and you want it a little bigger, that's what they're good for. They'll do that. But they don't, they lie. They just lie and lie and lie. That's what the world is like. And they make the electronics in the digital age so unintuitive, so hard to deal with, so complicated, so stupid, and nothing makes sense. You got to find out how to do it, and it never is logical anymore. It's ridiculous. And they all do it so they don't have a competitive problem. Because if you were dealing, let's say, with tablets and one company was making them easy to use and the others didn't, well, they'd lose business. So the iPad is supposed to copy all of your files and everything, your apps, everything from your mail, everything from your old to the new. So if you can't do it, I'm going to declare the thing broken and return it or get it repaired. They might tell me I got to get it repaired. I'll have to do it. I have to go and ship it wherever the heck it is. But I think I made a mistake, and I think if I do the complete purge of all the data in there, I could start over again and get it right. So please pray for me so I get that thing set up. It wasted about 5 or 6 hours of my time yesterday. I'm used to buying them. You just turn them on and you put them next to the old iPad, and it takes a few minutes, and then boom, you got all your data. It's just easy steezy. This was a nightmare. I don't understand. You see, it's getting worse all the time. All they care about is how much they can make. You see, the world's degenerating or getting worse. They don't like to talk about it and they like to make believe, but they know something is wrong. Everything is worse for everybody. The Satan bots too. Oh, they have more money, but they're very, very worried right now because they don't have money. They have paper. They got computer credits, you know, like with Star Wars, Empire credits. You don't have anything real. Nothing. So what are they going to do? They're worth $4 or $5 billion. They're going to fill their house up with gold. Somebody will hit them. What are they going to do? Hire 40 people to bodyguard it around the clock? They can't. Then the bodyguards will hit them. They can't. They could put, $2 or $3 million in the house in gold in a vault or something, but that's about all they can do. They're afraid of it. They probably wouldn't even put much in there at all. So, okay. So, what is Trump doing? Well, again, the Iwo Jima is chugging over here. Okay, that's the small small aircraft carrier. It can launch vertical takeoff F-35s and helicopters, and it comes with 2 other ships, and it can carry tanks and landing craft and all. Okay, shut up! Shut up! Shut up! We don't do house bark. And hey, all right. Mommy, get over here. Mommy, come. Hey, you come. If I got to get up, you're not going to like it. Come. Beulah's outside barking, and we didn't close the inner door, so she's right up against the glass door by the yard, and it's not open, but she sees that Beulah's barking, so she wants to get in on it, You better shut up, Mommy, or you're going to be sorry. I'll give you a liverwurst for a treat.
Knock it off, no barking. Be
quiet. Their life is boring, I guess. They got their food every day. They got petting. They're out of the weather. They got beds, kennels. They got, all their needs are met. So what do they got to do? Well, now they worry about barking. They're looking for something else. All right. So life is deteriorating. Okay, the way people behave. And, Europe is falling apart, Asia, I'm sure Africa, all of them. They know something's wrong. They don't know what it is, but they feel it. People aren't behaving right. Some of you guys are not as old as me. I can remember what life was like after the Vietnam War. During the Vietnam War, it was tense in America. It wasn't nice. It was tense. It was in the newspaper, big battle in Yet Tak Sung, and 23 soldiers dead, body bags are coming home, people are protesting the draft, and it wasn't good. The country almost fell apart, by the way. You had Black Panther movement, and it almost fell apart. But then after that, you go in the late 70s and the 80s, I mean, it was a real even into the 90s, it was a real carefree life in America. Okay. It started getting lousy in the late 80s. Okay. But the late 70s and, starting, let's say, 75, right up to the 90s, the early 90s, it was pretty good in America. The problems in America were they were coming out of gun control, making must issue permits in many states. That was a big issue, the gun control. There were people fighting for knife control, uh, drugs. They were trying to shut drugs down. There were drugs that were still legal. I don't think it was very difficult to get uh, steroids, and different medical doctors would give you various different kinds of pills. They had pain clinics were open, giving people uh, drugs for pain, legally in a way. Anxiety clinics were open, giving people um, various sedatives, sleep, and walk around in a fog all day. And people were interested in cars. In the 80s, the American cars, in the early 90s, they weren't that good, but then they got better. Everything was, but, people were, it was easy to live back then. It was easy to take trips. It was easy to get a car. All this stuff now is ridiculous, and it's getting worse by the day. And people weren't as bad as they are. When I saw it getting bad, I had a federal firearm license. I had a collector and a dealer. I never used them, but I had them. And it's not a carry permit, it's to do business. And then one day I wasn't home. They sent the fire department to my house. This was San Francisco, who hates guns. And they wanted to see how I was keeping the gun. I had no guns that I bought on the license, the fire department. I mean, that's how crazy they were with the guns. So um, I wasn't using it. I hadn't used it for years. I didn't want to start up with them. So I just called ATF up and I talked to the guy. And he said, listen, what do you want to do? He said, I told him I used to be a cop. He said, what do you want to do? I said, I don't need the thing. I never used it. I just got it because I thought it was a cool idea. And, can you help me? He says, yeah. What I'll do is I'll come over. You surrender the license to me. I'll give you a receipt. And then I'll call the fire department up and I'll tell them that you surrendered the license. You don't have a license anymore. And he said, I don't see any reason why they would ever come back to you anymore. You never used it, right? No, nothing. He said, okay. So if you used it and you had guns in your possession that you bought under the license, then you have to transfer them to yourself personally or somebody else, like sell them to yourself. It's crazy. But since I never used it, so he was a guy, so he helped me out and I got rid of it. But I mean, where do I start up with the fire department now? You know, uh, I could have, if I really wanted the license, all I really needed to do was move out of the city, which they would have been perfectly happy with me doing. And then it's over, and the fire department has no jurisdiction to continue it. And they had no grounds to do anything to me because I never used the license to buy any ammo. They were afraid I had tens of thousands of rounds of ammo or something like that. And but they were doing it to every federal firearms owner. They got a list and they were just trying to bother everybody. They didn't want things. Um, so, that was going on. They were having assault weapons bans in California. They were taking assault weapons away from people. They were cracking down on it. I remember I was in the gun business a few years after that happened. And there used to be able to get armor-piercing pistol ammo in California, and then they made that illegal. While it was legal, did I ever buy any of it? No, I had no use for it. A friend of mine did, but I never did. I had no use for it. Good for us if you wanted to carry these little guns around, like they made them in 25 caliber, like Browning made a really good one. It was about, you could put it in your shirt pocket, literally. If a cop was going to pat you down, would he find it? 100%. Unless he wasn't really that interested, and you put it in your crotch area and you didn't want to pat that down, then you'd be able to get away with it. But I searched a lot of people, and you can't hide a gun. You could hide something like, these little knives that are that big. Cold Steel makes them. Yeah, you could hide those sometimes. You can put them inside the collar of your shirt if you got a stiffly starched shirt, like a dress shirt, a white shirt with a tie, and it's a lot of starch, and you stuck it up under there. The chances of the guy missing it, if it's this big, but what are you going to do with that thing anyway? Yeah, but I mean, you could get away with it, or if he doesn't run his fingers through your hair, you could sometimes get it in. You can put a wig on and put it under the wig. But any sort of a serious weapon, you can't beat a search. If they really search you, you could have with these little 25 calibers. If you knew a skill, you could probably get boots with a hard heel, a good thick boot, and hollow it out and get it in there. You could do it. The heel would have to be larger than normal, which may attract attention visually. Or you could do it with some shoes, like a military shoe. Or no, that would be better, like a work that comes up over the ankle with a big heel in there. And what you do is you would hollow the heel out. If it was big enough, and you'd have to make it big enough, you could get knives or some sort of cutting tool and just cut a hole out, and you basically put it in there, and then you have to figure out a way to get to it. If you put a hinge on it where you could just swing it to the side, I bet you it would never stay in place. You'd have to nail it in and then figure out how to get the nails out. Would the cops find it in a street search? Nah. 9 out of 1,000 searches, 999 times, they'd never get it unless they asked you to take your shoes off. And if they told you to take your shoes off and bang it to see if anything fell out, you'd be okay. But if they asked you to let them have the shoe and they're going to look in it, they'd feel the weight. However, you could take the other shoe that doesn't have the gun and you could put the same gun in there, do the same thing, and the shoes would match in weight, and the chances of you getting away with that would be quite high. But how would you get access to the gun? I don't know. I have no idea. And if you went to jail, they'd probably take your boots away, give you some of their shoes, sandals or something, or flip flops, and they'd probably just put your shoes in the property room and let it sit there for 5 years. And then when you got out of jail, assuming it was that long, they'd give them back to you and you'd wear them out and they'd never find them. Because people just don't do that, you know. Can you put a gun in a hat? Yeah, they sell little derringers, and they're usually very underpowered, like 22, and put it in your hat. Uh, you know, even a baseball, not this kind of baseball cap because it's soft, but one with a firmer top. You'd have to rig up a little holster in there, have it stitched in or something like that, and stick it in there, and then you could take your hat off, pull it out. But they're anemic guns. Could you do it with a 25 caliber Browning? Yeah, yeah, you could. It would be not so easy, but you could do it. It'd have to be stiff, starched. You'd have to put hat stiffener in there, which do sell such a product, if it wasn't stiff enough. And yeah, but I mean, any cop searching you is going to look until you take the hat off, and he's going to look for packets of drugs in there or whatever, and see it. You know, cowboy hats work good with that. If you got a permit to carry a concealed weapon and you put one in your hat, what could they do to you? Not a darn thing. If they stop you, you got to tell them, I got a gun in my pocket, I got one in my hat, I got an ankle holster, whatever. And then they couldn't do a darn thing. The advantage of that be, well, if you were getting robbed, you should be more careful, and it shouldn't happen if you got a gun. But if it did, and somebody got the jump on you, and they patted you down and they took your gun and your wallet, what could you do? Well, if you work fast, take your hat off, get the gun out. But then what are you going to do? He's running away. Start chasing him and shooting him in the back. Oh, you feel grand jury now because your life's not being threatened at that point. He took your gun, he took your money, and he's running away from you. You can't use deadly force on him. That doesn't work. Can you run after him and take a cane or a baseball bat and whack him in the leg and make him fall down and hurt himself? Yep. Can you take a cane and run behind him and whack him in the head and crack his head open and kill him? No, that's the same thing. But you could hit him in the feet and trip him. It wouldn't bother you about that. So you could stop him and recover your goods, but you can't go after them with deadly force. So you'll get a lot of trouble for that. Now, in a real world, before you had these rotten, stinking governments, what would happen? In case the guy's running away with your goods, you shoot him in the back. You know, he's robbing you. You want your goods back, you shoot him. That's the real world. You know? The real world, someone comes into your house at night and you don't know if he has a gun or not, and you pick up a machete and cut his head off. That's the real world. Or you shoot him. That's the real world. That's the way things are. But now he comes in the house at night and you're scared. You don't know if you're going to shoot him because he may not be threatening your life. He just came in your house. Generally speaking, if he comes into your house at night, breaks in, you're going to, in most jurisdictions, probably not California, most jurisdictions, you can shoot the guy even if he dies, and you're going to be okay because it's obvious you fear for your life. But back to our boy Trumpy. So what is Trump doing? Iwo Jima is headed here. Gerald Ford Aircraft Carrier Group is headed here. And the George Bush Aircraft Carrier Group is headed here. Actually headed, I believe, to the Indian Ocean area where the Tripoli amphibious like land, aircraft carrier. The little one is there with the two other ships, along with the Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier with two or three escort vessels. And I think they're going to go there. Now, there's also a chance, although I don't see it, they're all going there, I believe, all of them. The Iwo Jima, the chances of them going into the Mediterranean are there, and I'll tell you where they are. They're there is they might go to Lebanon to go in and start working on Hezbollah. Maybe Trump said that he was going to disarm Hezbollah, but I think that Trump's probably just never going to get around to that. You know what I mean? And they're going to go to Iran. I would give it 90%. They're going to Iran, 10% Lebanon. Okay. The same with Yemen. I don't think they're going after the Houthis with that Iwo Jima. So Vance was going to go to the peace treaty, and Kushner and Witkoff, and I'm not sure if Kushner and Witkoff actually took off, but Vance didn't go. And the Iranians actually told them that they had no need to go. The Iranians further went on to say that Trump saying we're now in what Trump said, you got to understand what he really said. He said there's an indefinite ceasefire. It has an indefinite period of time. So he didn't give an end to it. So that means Iran doesn't have a date when they need to worry. You understand that? Okay. And he's doing indefinite ceasefire, giving Iran time to submit to them a counter proposal. So to Trump's proposal. So he's giving them an opportunity to submit a counter proposal to his proposal, which is basically next to, it's not a conditional surrender. It's really a deal. I mean, it's like a conditional surrender, but not exactly. And I don't know how Trump would manipulate that to get control of their oil, but he will, I'm sure. The fact that Iran said it's meaningless means they can attack anytime they want. Now, Hezbollah was not attacking because of the ceasefire, which I believe affected Iran, and it fell apart last night, so they started attacking us. They attacked some soldiers, I believe, in Lebanon or up in northern Israel, and they shot a missile into Israel. And sending barrages and stuff like that. So, to be honest with you, I don't know how bad the capabilities have been injured. There were protests last night against Netanyahu in Israel. Generous protests, good size. And several high-ranking military leaders, former leaders of Israel, I mean, generals and head of the military, members of the Knesset that were members, or maybe they still are, were there against Netanyahu, because what Netanyahu is doing is dragging out these wars, continuing them perpetually, so he doesn't have to finish his court cases and show up in court. He just tells them, I got the war, I can't come. And they're sick of it. That's why they're protesting. So when I tell you he's a piece of garbage and he's no good, there's at least 1 or 2 million Israelis that see that. And he's sort of teaching Israel a lesson. Well, you want to throw me out of office and put me in jail. Look at me. Now you're in a war all the time. So that's why we got idiot wartime tactics, which are targeted assassinations, blowing up command centers, blowing up storage facilities for missiles and equipment like that. Has any of this been effective? Well, he did accomplish something in Gaza. It took a long time, a lot of accusations of dragging the war out, but another one of his games is blowing up real estate. So real estate, shift people around, and then finally it reached a level where just about everything Hezbollah had was blown up, and that was it. So they're sitting there and not giving up their guns. And they won't. You'll have to kill them. And I don't know if Netanyahu definitely knows that. I don't think Trump knows that. You can't tell them, oh, you can remain in charge, because they know they can't remain in charge without their guns. Now, what's going on is the Israeli-backed militias in Iran, which are not fanatical lunatics, they're fighting with Hamas. And I think Israel's going to help them win. But these guys are killing the soldiers. They're shooting at them. They're not trying to blow their houses up. And they're shooting at the soldiers. They're doing it the right way. The right way is your war with Hamas. Every time you see they poke their head out, you shoot them with a helicopter, you shoot them with a jet, you shoot them from a tank, you shoot them from mobile artillery, you shoot them from towed artillery, you shoot them with a mortar, you shoot them. Then they're in the tunnels. They can't come out. Then you destroy the tunnels. They don't come out, they get destroyed with the tunnel. Going around blowing houses up because some guy's in charge of intelligence or something. First of all, Hamas has an intelligence division. That's like an oxymoron. Come on. Like blow the house up. All right. More is destroying the real estate. It doesn't work. They're still there. Look at, I mean, he got them to stop firing missiles, but they're still there. And they're in the way of Trump's resort and casinos in Gaza with his friends. So something's going to happen to him. They might forcibly evict them. I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't think Trump even comes close to having the guts to tell them you got a month or a week to give your guns up or we'll kill you. He'll never kill them and they'll never give the guns up. But these militias do. And if they're given enough economic help, if they're given enough guns and training and help and intelligence and communications and support and everything else, they will kill Hamas. Or they'll keep Hamas in the tunnels, which is the beginning of the end for them. So that's how that's going down. Trump's not doing it. Trump said he's going to do it many times, and he did nothing. And if you talk to him today, he'll tell you he's going to do it, and he'll never do it. So that tells us let's not be too excited about what he's going to do with Iran. But I think he's going to attack Iran again. The reason Trump is appearing so twisted in this is he's such a greedy son of a gun that values money so much. He can't bring himself. I'm serious. He can't bring himself to walk away from that oil. It's killing him. It's killing him, and it might kill him. What he's doing with the blockade is he's cutting everything off from Iran, okay? They're not getting chickens, they're not getting broccoli, lettuce, roses and orchids. They're not getting nothing. Machine parts, nothing. So Iran and Russia are not sending them weapons and supplies to make weapons disguised as other goods because nothing's getting in. There's no air flights. There's no ships. Trump says they're losing $500 million a day. I think that's pretty high, but I don't know, maybe. So they had a celebration in Iran last night, and they were parading missiles around the street, and people were chanting, "Death to America, death to Israel." Trump needs, leaving the Iwo Jima out of the equation for a minute, Trump needs probably till Sunday or Monday at the most for the George Bush and the Gerald Ford to be in the theater with the Abraham Lincoln in the Tripoli in the Indian Ocean area. So he might start then. He's probably got a good 10 days or more for the Iwo Jima. Now, I don't know what his plans are. Maybe he's going to wait for the Iwo Jima. Since he's had several days of success with the blockade without any serious missile attacks from Iran or drone attacks that are of a serious nature, he's making an assumption that he can continue this way until he gets all his military ducks in order and then go start knocking on Iran's door with bombs, bombing them. I put up on my Telegram a high-ranking Iranian military official saying that Trump is trying to play negotiations until he can get everything ready militarily to do sneak attack on us.
No, we're gonna party.
What?
Nothing to you.
So if Trump ends the blockade, the Iranian blockade stays in place. Okay. And
That was not good. Your goodness, you were written out. you getting quiet. Good find things, because you're an idiot just because you see a dog.
They look like they won. Then they go to a meeting with Trump and they sit there and say, we want more reparations. We're going to have nuclear material. We're going to have ballistic missiles. And we're going to have this and we're going to have that. For that, we want to have a guarantee from you that you'll never attack us. You know, stupid thing. If Netanyahu ever signed something like that, they'd call for a vote of no confidence. The next day, he'd be out of office within 72, 96 hours. That doesn't apply in America. They had things like that in America. Obama would never have lasted, neither would Biden, right out of office. So, is Iran going to submit new terms in writing to Trump? I highly doubt it. Because they're just going to tell Trump if he calls them, if they ever talk to him again, they'll say, we already told you. They're not going to keep doing it. Trump's trying to get Iran to submit a document with their demands, and then Trump's going to say, oh, let's talk about it. We'll get together in Islamabad and start with these meetings again. It seems to me that what Trump's doing is he's waiting for the rest of his assets to get here. What he's trying to prevent is I think, Iran from creating a lot of damage in Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq, maybe, and Israel, maybe. So I don't think we're going anywhere here. Do I think Iran's going to attack somehow, some way, shape, or form? Yeah. I don't know what they're going to do. Probably be somewhat different this time. They could try to take out some American ships. I would expect that would be high on their agenda. With the go fast boats, they're nervous now because they don't want to put 20, 30, or 40 go fast boats on one or two destroyers, because they'll probably lose most or all of their go fast boats. It'll psychologically be a loss. The world will see it, but they'll probably decide to pay that price if they think they could take out a destroyer. Don't stop and think and say, oh, they don't have the guts to take out a destroyer. The price to pay will be too high. Iran's way past that stuff. No, they'll take out destroyers. They'll take out aircraft carriers. They don't care about that the price is too high. Their mentality is this. This is what the Americans and the Europeans and people in Africa and Asia even don't understand. Iranians are prepared to lose their fortified missile cities and lose the ability to launch these missiles. Okay, they are prepared to do that because they know that ground invading and occupying them is an incredibly insane thing to do. And if you're going to run with classical military numbers, they've got about 1 million when you count reservists and militia and volunteer groups. They've got about a force of 1 million. And if you take that and you use classical war powers numbers, you need 3 million ground troops to go in. And Trump just simply, his total military is half of that. He could never, he might be able to muster 250,000. That's not enough. Can he bring a bunch of soldiers in and steal their oil, stationing special forces in the area in the thousands to secure it against Iran with tremendous air support? He's done that in Syria. Yeah, he could do it. Would it work? I'd give it a 9 on a 10 scale for working, but can he do it if he doesn't take out the missile cities? No, because they'll just fire on the oil refineries and stuff. So that's a mess. If he gets their missile cities out, what they, by the way, I'm not giving it to you that straight. They might put 150 tanks around some of their oil refineries and 10 or 20,000 soldiers at some of the key installations, and America comes in and tries to take that over. There's going to be a big bloody fight, and if the Iranians see themselves losing that fight, they could blow their own oil refinery up. If they're still alive in Iran, their position is they won. See, then they're going to go into the next phase, which is this ground war. And they know that America can't really do it. And Trump may try to do things like take Carg Island over and start selling their oil. But, Chevron and Exxon and those guys aren't going to step foot in that country while Iran is still operating with missiles and armies and tanks. They won't go near it. So I don't know how he's going to pull this off. Maybe he could convince them, like if the guy working the oil fields is normally going to make $175,000 a year and you give him $400,000 a year, he'll probably go out there. Here's your bulletproof vest or your flak vest in case of shrapnel. Here's your helmet, and let's get some work done, and they'll do it. They do it for 2 or 3 years. They come back and they pay off their house, they pay off their cars, they pay off their credit cards. They got money in the bank. And, the big thing, the big American dream is if you've got your house paid off, you're in a whole other economic league that nobody else is really in. I saw a guy once in San Francisco down in the city hall, and he was there getting his title from his house. He was talking to them. He paid it off after 30 years. And he said, let me see it. I can't believe I paid it off. So, a lot of people, they work in the factory or something like that, a blue collar, and then they make the house payments, and then they retire from the job and the house is paid off. And they got their pension, they got their Social Security, and they live good. You see these people running around taking trips with the false teachers on cruise ships going around the world in the Mediterranean. Where did Paul go? For some reason, they like to go on cruises to Alaska. Believe me, I have no idea why. You can only go in Alaska in the kind of the late spring and late summer. It's too miserable to go there any other time. So really, by the middle or end of August, it's over for Alaska. And it starts about now. They're probably running the cruises already. What the deal is this? There's nothing. They take you and they stop the boat and you get off and you go to an Alaskan village and people look at totem poles and they buy stupid souvenirs. Stupid souvenirs. And that's what goes on. And then you go and you look at wildlife, but you generally got to get off the boat. And they got things where you take a boat and then you get off and you put you on a train and the boat stays there for a couple of days, 2, maybe 3 days, and the train takes you in. And then you can see, if it's the right time of year, the bears catching the salmon. And you got to be real careful going around those places because in general, the bears are very distracted with getting the salmon and they're not that worried about you as long as you're several hundred feet away, but you never know, And you got another big problem other than the bears, and that's the moose. And the moose could ram you. I mean, they got horns and stuff. Imagine a 1,200-pound moose coming at you at 25 miles an hour. It's not good. It's not good. They're aggressive. I was once hiking in Yosemite a million years ago by myself, and it was approaching sunset, but I had a good hour, maybe an hour and a half. It was probably like April, I guess. It was after the snows. It was cold, but not that cold. It could have been early May. And I was up a trail. It was a zigzag trail, and I went up. I had the right, the Vibram soled shoes. I had a backpack. I had the protein bars. I had fluids. I had flashlight. I had a flashlight that you squeezed the handle, and it would it would turn the light on, so you didn't have to worry about your batteries ran dead. You didn't check. You just squeeze it, and you had. So you could use it to walk down the path if you needed it. It wasn't that bright, but good enough. And I did have a 45 with me, and I went up there, and I was by myself, and the moose were gaining altitude. They were going where they go at night, and they probably felt it was much safer for them to go up there. They probably don't see so great at night, and they probably had a place where they sleep. There was a couple of male and female. So I heard them coming across they weren't following the zigzag. They were just barreling up. And, they were probably walking up at about 5 or 8 miles an hour or something like that. They weren't at a full trot, but they were moving pretty quick. And there isn't really a lot of predators in Yosemite that would mess with a moose, a pack of wolves, maybe, or a pack of coyotes, but they don't generally go in a pack. Um, I don't think the little bears, they didn't have grizzly anymore. They had the brown bears. They don't bother with a moose. What else would be able to hunter would, but they didn't have any hunters in Yosemite. They were hunting moose. They wouldn't let you do that. So there wasn't really any predators that would get them, but they still followed their instincts. They were very careful. So they got to my landing on the zigzag and they knew I was there, but I heard them coming, so I went behind a rock and but I didn't want to say hello to them. I didn't know what they were going to be like. I'm in the middle of nowhere there, and it's starting to get dark. It wasn't dark, it was getting dark. And, the sun was starting to get dim. It was still pretty bright. So I was hiding behind there, and the two of them got up on the level and they froze. They smelt me. They might have heard me breathing. They can hear you breathing, some animals, but they smelled me and they froze and they stayed frozen. So that after a minute or so of that, the male moose told the female, "You go on ahead," and she just ran up without him, leaving him behind to cover her six, right? So, he was bigger, heavier, stronger. So he was hanging around. So I very quietly bent down and picked up a rock. And I very gently flipped it so it landed someplace other than where I was, and it hit the ground and he heard it. And then he took off because he lost control of what was going on. He didn't understand it. Critters in the wild don't pick up rocks and throw them to scare another animal. He didn't know exactly where I was. He knew the general area where the smell was coming from, my scent, but he didn't know exactly where I was. So he was frozen. He just froze, but he didn't have any camouflage to hide in. He had, I don't know. He was just trying to figure out what was going on. And then when the rock came, he just took off. He figured that whatever was going on here, he didn't want any part of it anymore. He took off. That was it. So, but they walk into villages in Alaska, moose. They wander in, they walk around the streets, and they've been known to hurt people. So they go up to Alaska. Why the Christian cruises go to Alaska is beyond me. First of all, you're not going to be out there taking jacuzzis on the deck and getting out in the sun on the deck because it's cold, even in June. It's cold. You're wearing a light down jacket or a good size wool jacket in the summer up there. It's not 80 degrees. You're cool, you're cold in May, and 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you might be able to walk around with your jacket off or something for an hour or two, but it's cold. So that's one detriment of the cruise is you're going to be spending a lot of your time inside the boat. And that is the big problem with cruising in cold weather. I did it once, I wouldn't do it again. You're in the boat all the time, and that's not so pleasant. When it's warm weather, you're outside in the fresh ocean air. It's lovely. It's great. But not when you're inside the boat. It's not so great, what's the big deal? It's not good. Would you want to go to a resort and stay in the hotel all the time? That's no fun. So the other problem that people don't realize till they go to Alaska, and they probably will go back again, is there's a tremendous amount of mosquitoes. And when the boat gets close to shore and ties up at a dock, you get the mosquitoes. And not inside the boat. They have ways of controlling that. The mosquitoes don't get inside the boat very easily at all. They have ways of doing it. And if they do get in the sliding doors, the mosquitoes tend to go into the recessed lights, and they have a way of putting mosquito killer thing on a stick up in the light. You don't have mosquitoes in your room. Well, you could if you were docked up there and you were a dumbbell and you kept your cabin balcony door open. Yeah, they'd come in, and then from there they'd get in the boat. But pretty much nobody does that because it's cold. That's the problem with the place. You get plagued with mosquitoes. Why people take these cruises, I don't know. People are usually disappointed with them. They're not that exciting or enjoyable. I never took the cruise in the Mediterranean where you go to the places that Paul went to. I would have liked to have done that, but I just never got around to it. A lot of things I never did. There's a cruise where you go to England and you get on the Orient Express, and it takes you, they give you like a 5-course meal, and it takes you to, I think, the port where the boat is, and then you get on like one of the Queen Mary things and take it back to America. I never did that. I always wanted to do that. Taking the Orient Express, those kind of trains around Europe can't people like it? I mean, I would probably try it. I never did it, but I've been on real trains. I like them. It's interesting, I guess, and you could get out and see different things. I never took a river cruise in Europe either. I don't think they're that much fun. The boats are small and nothing like a really big cruise ship. And the thing with that is you get off the boat in the morning and you go off and you take a tour, and then you come back at 6 o'clock. You get back on the boat, you have a shower, you eat dinner, and you go to sleep, and or something like that. They don't have shows. They don't have this. They're not very interesting. I don't enjoy them. I didn't do it. I never got interested in it. I was going to take those. They have cruise ships that are big sailboats. People like that. They sleep out on the deck at night, which is moronic because there is a thing called rogue waves. And if you're out on the deck of a sailboat, they're not like cruise ships, and a rogue wave comes, the odds of it washing you off the deck into the water is substantial. Pretty serious, actually. And a cruise ship, that's not going to happen. It's just going to wash you up against one of the walls of the boat on the side, and you're not going anywhere. You might get banged into the wall a little bit, but not much. And I don't even think the force would push you that far. But they come to swimming pools that are 12 decks high, like 120 decks high, and a rogue wave will hit and wash people out of the swimming pool. or wash people off their chevons and their bathing suits get ripped off the tops too. Uh, so they're pretty serious, and I would never want to sleep out on the deck like that. I mean, if you're awake and you're gonna see or hear the wave coming, you can grab onto something and probably you'll be okay. But it's a dangerous thing. So it's not, people like it. They let you work the ropes. They let you steer the boat. They stand right next to you, but they'll let you steer the boat. The food's usually pretty good, but it doesn't have the. It has a swimming pool that's the size of a Volkswagen or something. Well, it's a little bigger, but they're not that. I don't know. People like it. They're not about the stops. They do stop, but they're pretty much more about the boat. I never did it. And I always wanted to take a Pacific cruise to Asia, but I never got around to that. I had business to run, and I didn't have the time to do all of this stuff. The other problem is if you want to, do these things, sometimes you got to take long, grueling plane trips, and then you get in a hotel for 2 or 3 days to recover, and then you get on the boat. Uh, I didn't, there was limits to what I could do, what I did. I would have liked to have done more. I know cruising in Asia is supposed to be really interesting, you know. I didn't do that. That would have been fascinating. I would have liked to have done that. I didn't do it. But Africa, they do that. Um, South America, they go up. What are they called? The Amazon, I think. Some kind of rivers or something, and they go up those. Okay, they go up those, and you see the piranha fish. They'll throw meat over it. You'll see the piranha. Uh, Well, you're on a good sized cruise ship, and then they take you off and they put you on small boats and they take you around. You see like a monkey island they'll have and stuff like that. I never got into that. You're going to be hot, there's going to be mosquitoes. Uh, they're not all that safe. There's taking you out in water where people enjoy being around crocodiles and piranha and other kinds of fish that would just love to eat you. Uh, I don't think that's, I never thought, I never said to myself, I'm really sorry. I never went up these, rivers, and I never did that. Uh, Crossing the Atlantic is something a lot of you are going to do with the ships of Tarshish. You're going to cross the Atlantic and you're going to go around Spain and Portugal and Algeria, and you go through the pincher point there, Mallorca. No, what do they call it? Mallorca Straits or something like that. And you go into the Mediterranean. Now the Atlantic is rough travel. Um, boom, 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 and usually cold. I imagine if you went in the winter, in the summer, it wouldn't be that cold, but I don't think it would be warm either. I doubt it would be. And then maybe I'm wrong. You get into the Mediterranean, and that's going to be much, much more sedate water. It's way, way more calm. And then you cross through the Mediterranean, and you come to Israel, uh, which is right on the water. But you're going to stop in the wilderness. I don't know where the wilderness is. I don't think anybody on earth does. Maybe Apostle John might know. I don't know. But I don't think we all know. And I imagine the wilderness is nearby. I don't think the wilderness is going to be in China or India, but you never know. I doubt it, but you never know. Using Moses and Aaron and in Egypt, and it was close to Israel. Um, So, can Iran do anything to the United States? Absolutely. And I think that if I was the Iranians, well, this is what I think. The Iranians realize the only way they're going to get what they want, which is leave us alone. There's no sanctions, no snapback sanctions, no American sanctions. We're going to control the Straits of Hormuz and charge $2 million a ship, which they could raise. Okay, if they decide to raise it to 6 million, which they could do, then the price of oil keeps going up. So they could keep going from 2 million to 3 million to 4 to 5, and raising the price of oil that way. They're not going to stop their missiles. They're not going to stop their nuclear. They want war reparations. They want guarantees there's going to be no attacks. Now, I don't know how you get the guarantees. I think it's meaningless. You can't guarantee that stuff. I don't know how. America is going to guarantee they're not going to do it until they do it. And then they're going to say, oh, well, sorry about that. We broke our word. That's all. So they hit American bases. They hit Israel. They hit Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE. They even hit Oman. They hit Jordan. They hit Iraq. And they didn't hit Syria, and they hit Saudi Arabia. And it didn't stop, America. America's still coming, and they know all this extra weaponry is on its way for them. So their next move to get America to stop and get what they want would be to attack Europe. That's a dangerous game because it could backfire, and Europe then decides they're going to attack them. Italy, Germany, France, England, a couple other countries, Norway, and whatever. They're going to sit there and say, what the heck is this? If we don't shut them down and get rid of their weapons by blowing them up, they're going to keep attacking us and tell us to give them money and stuff like. What are we, crazy? We'll stop them. They're attacking us. NATO activates, and there you go. So there's a price to pay if they hit Europe. Now, what if they hit they hit London? Well, London's not in the EU, so the EU wouldn't be inclined to say, "Oh, we got to fight," but they are in NATO. But NATO is such a wimpy country. I don't know. So I don't know what would happen. But what does Iran think there's no downside to? I'll tell you. Attacking the America homeland. They've hit Port Arthur in Texas with drones twice and damaged natural gas and oil facilities, one or the other or both, I can't recall. And that firing of drones from ships far offshore in the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico is what I think is on the agenda. Now, the problem that they have with this is tactical. They don't care if they hit a daycare with little children or they hit a hospital. They don't care. They don't care at all. What they figure the way they get America to that they can attack America freely, and America can't stop them. Now, curiously, I picked up something and I put it on my Telegram today that America is not just using their Navy against Iran in the area of Iran, they're using it around the world. So they're doing something with their Navy against Iran. They might be interdicting, looking for ships like this. Iran has ships that look like container ships. Then the containers open up and missiles come out. Okay? They got ships that look like they're regular ships and they launch drones. They can launch drones up off the deck. They have others where they have a ramp and it goes up and turns up and the drones can go up, but that's sort of readily identifiable. Okay. The go fast boats are of no use. Was how the heck are they going to get go fast boats all the way over to America? They're not. That's absurd. That's not going to happen. But you got to understand, they're able to shoot. I know now they can shoot probably about 1,200 miles. So they could be 500 miles offshore from America. America is not interdicting ships at 500 miles. That's way the heck away from them. America might interdict ships at usually 25 miles, okay? They might even watch closely for 100 miles, but 200 miles, I don't think they're watching. 300, nah, no way. And they can penetrate into America pretty good with that. Now, after they fire the missiles, America radar, missiles and drones, America radar is bound to be active. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean America is going to activate the iron domes they have? No. Do you think America has patriots and all along the coast of the Mediterranean and the Atlantic and the Pacific? In other words, we'd be talking about at least a few thousand anti-missile systems. 3, 4, 5,000? No. No. They don't have them. How do they got to do it? How do they do it? Well, they got to have their warships floating offshore take these things down. But they don't have that many warships floating offshore, and the warships are not every 25 miles. They might be every 400 or 500 miles. And yeah, they might be able to do some takedowns, but Iran's going to mix drones and missiles together, and you're not going to get a successful takedown rate just from that unless, look, they got 16 tubes to fire missiles in a destroyer. That's it. They're going to get hits, and they're going to do a bunch of it because that's what's going to get it to stop. And the logic to this is Iran's going to say to themselves, well, heck, Trump's bombing the daylights out of us anyway. If we hit him in America, what's he going to do? Bomb the daylights out of us anyway, which he does anyway. You understand? So they don't have the downside. If they hit Europe, they're liable to pick up NATO. And like I told you, all the NATO members, all they got to do is dedicate, let's say 10 aircraft. Let's say you got 15 countries that do that. You got 150 more aircraft going around bombing them, and send another 15 or 25 warships. Trouble. So if they can hit America, they're not going to have to pay a price for it because they're already paying the price. Do you get the drift? That's what's going on. That's their problem. And if you understand what I just said, that's what I think their next move is likely to be. It'd be, from their point of view, not from America's point of view or from a morality point of view or anything like that. It would be an effective method of trying to get America off their back. Okay. And be their best move. And believe me, they don't think that they're not aware of things like this, because they are. They're quite aware, and they they know it. Okay, let me see what I got here. All right. I don't have much I have to deal with here. So that's why I'm saying, things like, well, what could go wrong? And see, that's their best move, because they don't have a downside. They have a very strong upside in getting Trump scared. I myself do not think Trump has the stomach and the guts to take strikes in America. Am I telling you that we're in Revelation 18, 17 and 18, really? Yeah, I am. Can that strike actually be on Washington, D.C.? Yep. Yeah, Washington, D.C.'s got some anti-missile systems around, but not that much. See, people look at Israel, and Israel's loaded for bear with this. The UAE put a lot of anti-missile systems in. Well, they sure were able to afford it, and they did okay. They took a lot of damage, but they did okay. Kuwait took a lot of damage, but they, okay. They were sustained, but you know, they're small countries. Look at the size of America. America doesn't have, you think they got patriots and THAAD systems all the way up in Florida and Georgia and the Carolinas and Virginia and New York and Boston and Maine and Vermont. Are you serious? But they don't have to hit the coastal cities. But Washington, D.C. is more or less not far inland. It's like a coastal city shot. But they could go in a few hundred miles. They could go well into New Jersey, for instance, They could go in. I don't know if they want to. And when you're talking about the Mediterranean, the Gulf of America, formerly the Gulf of Mexico, they got a whole other set of targets they could take on in Florida. You know where some really primo hits would be from them if they wanted to scare Trump badly? Universal Studios, Disney World. There's one in on the other side of Florida. I've been there. I don't remember the name of it now. It's not as nice as Disney, but it's a substantial amusement park. Then they got Marine World kind of things. They got All sorts of things to hit. Beautiful 40, 50-story high-rise buildings. Loads of targets. And then you got Louisiana, which has got, they were offloading oil to ships in Louisiana and Texas. So that's going to be their primary target, because then the world pays a price. They hit Louisiana, they hit Texas, the refineries, the ports, and the piers. They're hurting the world. The oil prices are going to go up 25, 40%, 50%, I don't know. And the countries of the world are not going to get in airplanes and drop bombs on them. So they get a good bang for their buck. You understand? So where are they going to get with the kindergartens and stuff like that? Well, they're going to scare the daylights out of Trump, because he's going to realize that there are a bunch of psychopathic lunatics, and they're coming for him. And he may just start, just surrendering or something. I don't know. See, Iran thinks they're going to win. And what does the Iranian idea of winning think? Most people don't understand this. They're still there. They got $1 trillion worth of damage. They're still there. They're still walking around. They're still in control of the country. They still got tanks and guns and bullets, and they got oil. Well, maybe they got to repair their oil. Well, if their economy is going to crap out, Russia and China will try to keep them going while they repair their oil. They'll invest. Basically, they invest in the oil wells with Iran, and that China would love to do that, because then it's China oil. And then if Trump tries to go in again the next time, he's attacking Chinese assets. They put a Chinese base there, stuff like that. Yeah, think about it. So if they're still there and they're still breathing air, they won. And then what are they going to do? They're going to rebuild, and they're going to come back and finish America and Israel if they can, which they won't. So what would you do if you're Iran? You want to get these people off your back. You want to get a good settlement out of them. To get war reparations, you got to hurt America. And now comes Europe. If you hurt Europe, you'll get the war reparations, because they're cowardly. They don't want to fight. So that might be a reason why Iran attacks them. But they're going to want to attack America because they want America to be very persistent with Europe and say, no, you don't want to aggravate this. You want to, let's pay it off. Let's just settle with them and stupid. Now, am I guaranteeing you that Iran's going to do this? No. Do I think they will? Yeah, I think it's really one of their best ways out of this. You're not going to read this in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, the Post, or the Mail online in the UK or anything. You're not going to read this there, because it would create panic. True or not, they're not going to put it there because it would create panic, but it's really the best move for Iran if they still have these type of converted civilian vessels that are doing this, and they have enough of them where they could do it. Now, after these missiles launch, America's going to know from their radar, darn tootin', they're going to know where the launch point was. And there's going to be jets going out there with the afterburners on 1,400 miles an hour. It ain't going to take long to get there. And the ship is going to move, but how far is it going to go in, let's be generous and give them a half hour, how far is it going to go? 10, 20 miles. So they just got to fly a radius of the launch point for the missiles, and they got them. They find them and then they take them out of the water. So Iran doesn't have a great big shot here. What Iran would need to do is carry little boats with the big boat, which is pretty far-fetched, launch the little boat with a missile launcher, and it goes and launches. So I don't know how Iran is going to survive after they do it. If they do it and they get destroyed, and then Trump knows they've gotten destroyed, he might relax and say, okay, let's get another 10,000 bombs. You know, Iran's never going to make them think that they're out of these ships. They're going to try to convince them they have another dozen or so. It's really weird. What about boots on the ground terrorists in America? It's a possibility, but we haven't seen it yet. Does that mean we won't see it? No. I'm not leaning in that direction too heavily right now. No. All right. We'll see what we shall see with these crackpots. Okay. What we know from intel is this: long-range ballistic ground-to-ground missiles are continuing to be moved around in several cities in Iran. So they're shifting their assets, their missiles. Remember what the Lord says, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. That we can trust. What Jehovah says we can trust. And you should trust, and you should believe it cut and dry. But we often don't know the day or the hour or the week or the month it's going to happen, but it sure looks like it's on, it's a now thing. But, we could be wrong, but it looks like it. Okay. So the missile launches are the chief of their might, and that goes. So that makes me motivated to believe probably the boots on the ground. Maybe I'm wrong. It might be air attacks, and then you're, in the eyes of the Iranians, you're just going into another phase of the war, the ground war now. And they're hidden in mountains, in caves, in tunnels, in fortified places on the ground, and they got artillery with lots of artillery shells. They got mortars. They got missile pod launches, little 2 and 3/4 inch missiles. They go a few miles, and they go 10 miles or something, They got those. They got, to kill tanks, to kill troops, stuff like that. They don't have planes. They don't have helicopters. They're of no value in these areas anymore. So that's the way Iran sees it. They're going to win now because America's not going to bring enough troops in for a ground action. If America did do that, that would be the closing of the snare on America. Jeremiah 50:24, that would be it. Then you would see Russia attack Europe, or maybe not. Then you might just see Russia and Iran and North Korea and China just attack mainland America. The heck with, Taiwan and Japan and South Korea. Let's get the mother load. You see what I'm saying? So I would say Trump is buying time right now. He thinks he can keep Iran comfortable while he's bleeding them dry with his blockade by saying, oh, I'll give you an indefinite ceasefire. And they said, Get lost. They didn't go to the negotiations. They said, get lost. Now we're giving them an indefinite ceasefire. Do they say, oh, thank you? They say, we don't recognize it. So they intend to continue fighting anyway. He's trying to collapse the regime. Trump is trying to get, because no goods are getting into Iran. Shoelaces aren't getting in. Garbage bag liners aren't getting in. Hot dogs aren't getting in. Nothing's getting in. Shoes, dresses, hats, nothing. So what's he trying to do? He's trying to, get the people agitated and mad. Meanwhile, the Shiite Muslims in Iran are getting out in the streets with the missiles, saying, oh, look at this. This is going to kill the Jews. It's going to kill the Americans. Death to America, death to Israel, blah, 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 blah. That's what these lunatics are doing. Okay, but the other people in Iran, Trump's still hoping maybe they rise up, but I don't see that in the scriptures. So I wouldn't put a lot of stock in that. Scripture does not indicate an overthrow, none of that. Trump is on one side of the mouth telling us that the blockade's going to break Iran in a relatively short period of time. Do I think that's correct? Well, it is certainly valid. I don't know what that period of time is. Yeah, if you give it 90 days, oh, for sure. But what happens after a month? I don't know. Does Trump know? I don't know. I don't know. Some people are saying we're in a war of attrition with Iran. Not exactly. No. A war of attrition is we'll shoot missiles at each other and see who runs out of ammo first. No, that's not it. Okay, curious. Mike Huckabee is the ambassador to Israel who's located in Israel. He was told to fly back to America quickly, which he did. Mike Huckabee is going to be in the next peace talks with Lebanon, Washington, D.C., and Israel, which are, in my opinion, fairly retarded because Hezbollah is the factor causing. Lebanon's not a war shooting at Israel and Israel shooting at the Lebanese army and the government, hitting the parliament, hitting the Supreme Court. No, they're fighting with Hezbollah. Israel's fighting Hezbollah, and Hezbollah is not in these peace talks. So what's going on? See, this is when Trump goes into the theater of the absurd. This is like vaudeville. This is like, Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, the Three Stooges. Is that stupid? What good does it do to have a treaty with Lebanon and then Hezbollah just says, we're not abiding by it, and they keep attacking? You see how stupid it is? It's like the theater of the absurd. I don't think there's any big effort right now in Israel to get rid of Netanyahu, unfortunately. Um, he goes for election in October. Where are we? Towards the end of April already? Come on. It's not computing. It don't compute. No. No, it just doesn't compute. The reason they called Huckabee back on a very rapid basis was supposedly had something to do with Iran, but maybe Lebanon more likely. And they could have just said that to get Huckabee out of here because they know the missiles are going to rain down again and they don't want him here. He's in good standing with Trump. Trump would want to protect him. Uh, I don't think Huckabee has very much to do with the Iran situation at all. I would think that he's just involved with the Lebanon, but he is ambassador to Israel, so he could be getting involved in that. I don't know. Qatar's LNG, that's liquid natural gas, propane, that kind of stuff, is unable to ship from the damage that Iran did to them with their missiles. See, there is significant damage in these states. So that's causing a power crisis in several countries, including Pakistan. So that's another reason Pakistan wanted a real ceasefire, not what Trump did, you know. So there's severe power shortages and blackouts in Pakistan. They might be running, you can run your house on LNG, okay? People in Israel, if you go to the gas company in Israel, they have on their website, they have appliances that run on LNG, like what? Washing machines, dryers, ovens, microwaves, refrigerators, all of that. All of that. Stoves, cooktops, you know. Some people buy it. I don't know. I never worked it out. In America, if you're running your house on LNG, they have tanks they'll bring, and they'll put them about 100 feet away from your house if they can. And they're about 15, 18 feet long and about 4 feet in diameter. They're huge. And I think it probably costs a bunch of money to fill it up, but you fill that up and you're probably good for 2 years, or depending how much you use. But if you're under attack and a bomb or a missile or a drone hits that tank, it can cause a rather large explosion So I don't see those anywhere in Israel. All I see is uh, the cylindrical tanks. That's it. This is what Netanyahu stabbed us in the back. We have this offshore platform for LNG, and for years, the people of Israel fought this bum Yahoo who wouldn't give in. He wouldn't give in for years, and this bum eventually gave it to American company. And the American company sold it after a few years, and they laid some sort of pipeline to bring it to Israel and to Europe. And then what the people in Israel told Netanyahu to do, he's such a piece of garbage. I wish the world understood this. What they wanted to do was bring the LNG in, and he says, "No, we need a benefactor. We don't have enough people to do it." And they said, "Jerk, all you got to do is raise an offering, and you'll have stockholders, and we'll sell stock, and we'll have the money, and we'll have the 51%." He says, "No, it won't work." He's so bad. What the plan would have been is with all that LNG, we could have sold it at a pittance to ourselves, right? Easily. And you could convert cars to LNG hands down a few $100, and your car's running on LNG. You could run, yeah, I mean, you could set your air conditioners up to run on LNG. You could do all of this. And if you're running your fridge, your washer, dryer, air conditioner, oven, cooktop, microwave, your appliances and your car on LNG, our hot water heaters work off solar, so we don't have to worry about that. But you can run the heater in the winter on LNG. It's much, much cheaper than gasoline. And the air would be cleaner. We would be much better off. And he knew it. He knew it. And he didn't want it. He wants his boot on Israel. He wants Israel to be so hard to live in that Jews don't come here. I'm not kidding about this. I'm telling you. Aliyah and being nice to the Jews from around the world that came here went on before Netanyahu. He's got a 20-something year reign of horribleness on Israel, a curse on Israel. This is my opinion. Obviously, I'm saying that for a reason. And I can't say factually because I can't prove it to you, but I believe it, and there's millions in Israel that do, and this piece of trash keeps getting away with it. People think he's good for Israel. He's the worst thing that ever happened to you. He's worse than King Saul. Really, truly worse than King Saul. The worst leader Israel ever had in thousands of years is this piece of garbage. I got a piece of news for you. I'm getting into it in a couple of seconds about this to show you. You see, what he wants to do is keep the Israelis in sin because that's when his power gets stronger because they give place to the devil when they sin. And that's what it's about. Remember that. I'm going to deal with something in a little bit. You'll know why. So we know Hezbollah violated the ceasefire, launched a rocket at Israeli troops in southern Lebanon, and I thought it was a missile. Actually, it was a drone sent them up by the border in northern Israel near Lebanon. So they did all this after Iran was saying, "Well, we're not going to the meeting. We reject any ceasefire. We're not partakers in it." So then Hezbollah said, "Well, I'm going to show my stand with Iran," and then they attacked. So they're saying we don't want a ceasefire either. Israel is preparing to host the Middle East's largest LGBT festival to date at the Dead Sea in June of this year. And I'm going to take a break for a minute, come back, and we're going to go into that. And you know what his motive is. And how did the ultra-Orthodox ally themselves with Netanyahu? Huh? How do the ultra-Orthodox support this? Support Netanyahu because the ultra-Orthodox ain't on the side you people think they are. Okay, the people might be leaders. So, why the Dead Sea? Because you have anti-LGBT people in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem that will protest against this. So, who lives in the Dead Sea? Well, there's not a big population living there. So that's where he figures he could do it. And it's attractive because you could float in the water. And there's a beach. And there's hotels. So that's what Netanyahu wants to hold us. Did King Saul ever do this? No. Any king of Israel ever hold such a festival? No. No. Plan involves much more than just a music festival or party. It is a 24/7 experience featuring 15 hotels, which I doubt is enough, beach facilities, parties, and a central show arena, all intended to be operating day and night. So it's a nonstop 24/7 event. Reminds me of what happened on October 7th when they had a similar, not exactly that, but they had that event when we got attacked. They're calling it Pride Land. It's 4 days, June 1, 2, 3, and 4. Transforming the center of the Judean desert into a pride city, not far from the biblical site of Sodom and Gomorrah. That's true. So, they're going to have to start working on like now because it's you just got a few days left in April and then May and then it's on. So I imagine they got to start working. Well, they got to build stages, right? You got to set up a lot of porta potties. They got to contract a lot of people to put, what would you call them? Food booths or food sellers, like selling falafel and shawarma and pizza and ice cream and ices and maybe cheap Chinese food or sushi. I don't, you're going to have a lot of them. And they need to pay to get a permission or license or something to open a booth. And then they got to get a booth and they got to go there and, get it set up. This is not something you do May 25th, it takes time. Then you got to have lighting, you got to have a medical set up there for, people cut themselves on a bottle or get drunk and hit a rock or something, you got to have that. You're going to need lifeguards you could, I don't know if you could easily drown in the Dead Sea because you could just float, but it could happen, I suppose. What if you got sunstroked and fell down face down in the water? That kind of, I'm being gruesome. You need to book entertainers. There's going to be shops that are going to sell various things like T-shirts celebrating the event, and they got to print the T-shirts, right? And I think a lot of the people aren't going to stay there for 4 days because I think you'll just get tired of it. You'll be overexposed to the sun, tired. I don't know how you're going to sleep if it's going 24/7. I went to a rock concert once as a kid, a million years ago, the Atlanta Rock Festival, which was just about 2 weeks or 3 weeks before Woodstock, and it had about 500,000 people. And I went with this girl I knew. She was a neighbor of mine. We went in a Volkswagen station wagon, and we slept in it in the parking area, listening. I remember going to sleep listening to Janis Joplin doing Ball and Chain, and Hendrix was playing, Grace Slick. I mean, we were all there, and they were playing through the whole night. I had to sleep with the music blaring, and we were there 2 days, I think. That was it. I think it was 2 days. I think that was all it was. And it was, it was hot. They came around with a truck with water with hoses and they squirted the kids if you wanted to get squirted. There was an old building on the grounds there. It was the fairgrounds, whatever it was in Atlanta, and they had a building. It had a wall and stuff like that. And there was this guy there with a very expensive camera set up right by one of the old windows where it was knocked out in this building. And he was filming it, and most people wouldn't have picked it up. He was, military intelligence. They didn't know who he was. I knew who he was, and not that I knew him personally. I took a look at it, and I looked at him, and I saw what he was doing. At least that's what he was. Not FBI. FBI would have a whole other approach to it. And the police were weird. They didn't know what to do. And the kids knocked the gate down, the fence and the gate, so they opened it up for free. That was the hippie days. So a lot of extra people that didn't pay, a lot of people paid for tickets, so they got the money, and then people rushed in through the knocked down fence and didn't pay. And then they came around with a truck full of, and they were giving people watermelon for free. Because it was so hot. And we tried to get a hotel and go back and forth from hotel. We couldn't. So then when we left, we drove, we got a hotel someplace, probably about 25 miles away. And then we were exhausted. We went to sleep and then went back to college where we were at Florida. So this is probably going to be a thing like that. I don't know how people are going to take it for 4 days. That's Netanyahu's idea, because he can't really do this in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. There's a lot of resistance. Now, with the wars, is this going to work? I don't know. If they're shooting rockets, missiles, and drones, they're going to have to cancel it. I mean, they'll have to. And that's going to make doing it in the future very difficult, if at all possible. If there's one cancellation, then people aren't going to want to come anymore. They're going to waste a lot of money booking airlines, booking hotels, booking car rental, taking vacation time from work. Also, what happens if the Iranians decide to fire missiles at it? Remember what happened to that music festival, October 7th, 2023? It's a massacre. What if they try to do that? I don't know. Do you think Netanyahu is going to bring iron domes over there? I don't. So Trump accused Iran of numerous ceasefire violations. I'm pretty sure they were real, that they really did do ceasefire violations and, attacking ships and all that. So what? Who cares? The Iranians don't care. Is that you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought the dog was digging his way down.
You know what I heard the news of the people today over the war benefits?
Why?
If your car was damaged in the war, they were supposed to give you something. But if you repaired your car before they gave you something, you get nothing. So
But if I couldn't hear, if your car was what?
damaged. You know, if your property was damaged from the war, right?
That I know, yeah.
All right. So, case in point, car was damaged. They couldn't use it. They couldn't open the doors. So they went ahead and repaired it themselves and filed for the government money. They said, "Oh, no, sorry, you paid for it. We're not paying you."
Yeah, you have to go to their repair place. That's why, yeah.
But you can't. You repair it first. You can't do.
I know, I know. So I think our ceasefire with Hezbollah is over with, but Netanyahu's probably called the White House up and said, "What do I do?" And Trump probably said, "No, no, don't do anything. I'm trying to do another ceasefire. Don't do anything." So he probably did nothing. Opinions talking in light of the repeated threats by Trump and its invading terrorist commanders. We warn them. No, this is our capabilities and powerful have long been at a state of 100% readiness with their fingers on the trigger so that in the event of aggression or any action against Iran, we will immediately and forcefully strike predestinated targets and deliver another lesson harsher than before to the U.S. oppressors and the child-killing Zionist regime. That came from the Iranian military guy, what is it? Kaham al-Anbiya, which I believe is the armed forces. So they warn and they threaten. I mean, that's that's standard operating procedures, but they also fire a lot of missiles and drones too. So you got to be, understanding that they do not show fear like psychotics. The advisor to the Iranian parliament, this is the advisor to their Congress. Okay, we don't really have things like that in America or Israel. Trump's extension of the ceasefire makes no sense. The losing side cannot get the terms, doesn't get to control the terms. They think they're winning. You understand that? Because from their viewpoint, they are. Trump's extension of the ceasefire makes no sense. The losing side cannot set the terms. Continuing this siege is no different from bombing and must be responded to militarily. The siege is closing the Persian Gulf through the Straits of Hormuz to do it. Meanwhile, Trump's extension of the ceasefire uh, certainly means buying time for a surprise strike. It is Iran's time to take the initiative. You hearing this? That's why I say, what could go wrong? Yeah, well, now you just heard it. And you got to understand something about these people. They, when they tell stories about how great their weapons are, it's very, very often a film. But when they start talking about what they're going to do and things like this with wars, it's very often real. So they know Trump is buying targets in to bomb them into oblivion. And when they say they're going to take the initiative, what they're saying is we're not going to wait for Trump to bomb us and then retaliate. We're going to go out and do it ourselves. We're going to take the time and strike ourselves. So, likely thinking, let's go and knock America down before they get more assets over here and hurt us worse. That's what they're doing. Okay. And are they going to? Yes. So we don't know how long Trump is buying time. It could be as long as 3 or 4 days, guys, because in 3 or 4 days, everybody will be in position except the Jima, and that is carrying the Expeditionary Force Marines, and they're probably intending to use those guys after a good long round of bombings. Okay. Um, Not quick. Okay. That's what's going on. uh, so we always look to guide us through these times with prophecy. Like we see the prophecy against Elam, which is Iran, and it says, "I will." God speaking, "I will destroy the bow of Elam, the strength of their might," and that's the missile launcher, and that's what Iran's using the most. Without that, they got nothing. They have ability to repel ground attacks, like I told you, but I think not if, but when the nations destroy their missile launches, they'll, so to speak, give up the ghost, as the Bible. The King James uses that word incorrectly. They'll say, "What are we fighting for?" The oil refineries will be gone. The airports, the bridges. The ports and the piers, the oil. The oil's going to go. Probably not just the refineries and the storage tanks. No. The pipelines, the LNG as well. That goes with pipelines. And the oil fields will probably get blown up. Which could mean there'll be fires in the oil fields for perhaps weeks, months, I don't know. Nobody's going to go over there and put them out. Who? You? I don't know. Who's going to go? So that's what I think is going on there. If Iran hits America with missiles, that's the beginning and the end of the daughter of Babylon. You know that. But Trump may still have enough impetus to take out the water making facilities, the desalination. Take that out. Take the bridges. Take their power generators. Take their oil refineries, all the oil, all the natural gas pipelines and all, and then blow the fields up. Or the Iranians may blow their own fields up to make sure Trump doesn't get it. If they know they got to leave the country, there's no water and all, then they'll blow their own oil up. Maybe, I don't know. And they scatter into every nation in the world. That's in Jeremiah 49, starting in verse 34, and it's referred to as Elam, which can and likely does include Iraq, maybe a piece of Syria. Also in Jeremiah 49, earlier on in the chapter, we read of Edom getting destroyed so bad nobody ever lives in it again. And that could still happen before the destruction of Iran. It doesn't look that way, but that doesn't mean it's going to be that way. It doesn't look that way means nothing to God. He doesn't look the way we look, okay? So the way humans look at it, no, Iran will go first. Well, maybe not. Maybe the Houthis will like and start attacking Saudi and other countries, and then Pakistan got to help Saudi. UAE will help Saudi. And do you think Trump would help Saudi? I do. You think Israel would? Netanyahu would squeeze something out of Saudi Arabia, and then he would send 20, 30, 40 aircraft down there to bomb the daylights out of them. He would do that. And what would the Saudis do? They would agree to make investments, buy weapons from us, open their airspace to our civilian planes and military. And they would be able for crazy Israelis to go travel to Saudi Arabia. Why they would want to go to Saudi Arabia, I don't have any idea. I imagine they do have real duty-free shopping down there. That would be one reason, and it's not a big plane trip. That's another reason. Uh, I think it'd be maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours into Ridya. My thinking. That's what I think it'd be. Yeah, that's what I think it would be. Would I go? No, not under this time. While Netanyahu's reigning, no, I wouldn't go. Uh, I don't know what you would do there. Everything would be. I mean, if you were the type of person that wanted to buy Gucci and Schmugucci and Carolyn, whatever her name is, and Louis Vuitton and Chanel and all that, I guess it'd be well, worth saving. But when you come back to Israel, they're going to hit you with the 18%. So I guess what the Israelis would do is go down there for a few days and buy the purse for, you'd get a $18,000 purse in Israel, probably be 12,000 there, or maybe 10,000, and wear it every day so it looks used, and throw perfume in there and containers of ketchup or stuff like that. I guess stuff you could wash out and make it look but I don't know, guys. I don't know what's gonna happen with that. A lot of Israelis go to the UAE, and I understand why they go there. They have way higher class entertainment there for children than you get in other countries near Israel, like Egypt or Lebanon or any of that. Well, we can't go to Lebanon. We could go to Egypt, but they don't have any world class. Like they have a Warner Brothers theme park there that's actually indoors. Imagine this. It's $1 billion deal. They built $1 billion some years ago. $1 billion. It's an indoor theme park. I've seen videos of it. It's got quite a. Every video I've seen of it, it's rather empty though. Oh, there's people there, but it doesn't like Disney where you're walking in wall to wall people. I've been to Disney where you feel like you're on a rush hour. Uh, the state of the art now with Disney is everything is super expensive, and um, like way over $100 a day a person, and it's still crowded. Unbelievable. It's still crowded. If they wanted to create terror in the people in America, one way of doing it would be to hit Disney and Universal Studios. Another way would be to hit apartments, the high-rise apartments by the water all up and down the coast of America. And you hit a couple of those and people are really scared. So then what does Trump do? He extinguishes Iran. There has to be no government of Iran, which under the situation now means no Iran. And then there's nobody ordering the launch of missiles in America. That's what Trump would swiftly go to. And if you got, maybe counting Israel, you got 500 aircraft. I mean, if every day each plane drops 2 bombs, you've got, but it'd probably be closer to 4. So you'd have 2,000 bombs a day. So after a week, you got 14,000 bombs. Do you know what kind of damage it is? I mean, it's massive damage. And that's in addition to missiles being launched into Iran from ships and so on. It, you're dealing with crazy people, and crazy people are Iran, and they're going to make mistakes. You and I know how far-fetched it is to see America give Iran everything it wants, plus war reparations. I mean, we know that, if Trump ever said, yeah, we'll give you war reparations, people would be storming the White House, don't you think? I mean, what are they going to let him get away with that? You know? The good news for Israel is Iran's going to have very little time and attention to attack us. They know that we're going to attack them if they attack us or they don't attack us. And they know that we're not going to back off. We're going to take them to the mat. So there's not a lot of gain for them to attack Israel. It's not going to happen. They want to attack countries that are, in their minds, going to throw the towel in and try to get this thing to stop and come to an end. And that would be Europe and hitting America homeland. This might be it, okay? I can make a very good argument that they're in a siege now, and it's going to get worse in more countries. All right. I'll keep you posted. We'll see how this develops. We might be at full war any minute. Iran may just start launching at I don't know who or what. Let's take a look and see if they did. By the way, gas, I'll give you the gas price. Well, the oil price, gas. I should say oil. Okay. Because gas is not correct. I should be saying oil, but we will get the gas prices too. And well, I got gold. Let me refresh this. I'll give you the gold and silver, then we'll do the oil. All right. It's pretty much where it's been. 47.58 ounce of gold and $78 for an ounce of silver. So we're not seeing any real movements in this area because not enough has really transpired for that yet. I'll get the oil prices real quick. Oilprice.com. Whoops. Is shut to that. Because they don't give you the junk that you get. These other guys trying to sell you investments. Okay. Nothing remarkable. There's a pretty wide gap between WTI and Brent, which is a little, not much different, not so big a deal. WTI, the American, is $89.60 a barrel, and the European Brent is 98.67. So things are within, pretty much what we've been seeing. There's no war actively going on with Iran, so things are working out okay. So far, and now let's take a look at gasoline prices in America and Asia and Europe. I would like current. I would like current gasoline prices in Europe, the United States, Asia, for the three grades of gasoline plus diesel. Um, Up to date today prices, please. Wow, California now is $5.88 for regular gasoline. That's getting there. $8 is very, very dangerous. People can't take $8. Seven is flaky, it's getting there, but $8 is catastrophe land. Okay, so uh I think I'm giving, what are these prices? Oh, this is, I think, Europe. Uh, for low test regular gas, 7.26 a gallon. For diesel, $8.24. In the Netherlands, it's $9.43 a gallon. Diesel is $10 a gallon. So you take your tank and you fill it up 19 gallons, let's say, or let's say 18 gallons, which is probably when people will go $100. The cheapest place in Europe is Malta, $5.45 a gallon. Um, Now we go to Asia. They're averaging for their gas $6.10 a gallon. Hold on to your hat. I mean, don't get scared, but get concerned. Hong Kong is currently at $14.65 a gallon. Imagine something like that in America. Japan is doing great, $3.41. India, $3.33. Malaysia, $3.78. Probably because, well, Malaysia's giving a subsidy. Probably because they're not taxing it. The U.S., this is the story. Regular is running at an average of $4.04. Mid-grade is running at $4.53. Premium, $4.91. So it's safe to say a lot of people paying $5 a gallon for premium. 8 is breaking point. I'm telling you, you'll see. Diesel is $5.53. Now, that was the AI Pro that did that for me, Gemini. AI Pro, the upgrade. Guys, you know, it's easy to figure out why you're at breaking point. At $8. Um, there's a lot of people. Look, you go shopping, it's pretty normal for people to earn a gallon or 2 gallons just to go to the supermarket and come back, especially when you're running the air conditioner, especially when you have a pickup or an SUV or a big car. If you got a little Fiat 500 or a little some other kind of car, that's not the case. But you're getting a city with your air conditioner with a lot of these cars, you're getting, let's say, 14, 15, 16 a gallon. People that don't live directly in the city are going to burn that one way getting into the supermarket and then getting out. And if there's a lot of traffic, it could be double that. They're sitting stuck in traffic. Okay, so if it's double that, it's costing them $32 to go shopping at $8 a gallon. Do you understand? So that means if they go shopping, they're going to go shopping for 2 weeks at a time or 3 weeks. They're going to load up because they're not going to want to burn the gas. But what about somebody going to work that's burning 2 gallons, 2 gallons a day going and 2 gallons coming? That's not a lot for a commute. It's not that much. Okay, but if we work with that, you're talking $32 a day to go to work, $160 a week. Like $650 roughly a month. People can't cut that, okay? People don't have $650 a month to throw into gasoline. A lot of people can do it, but it's going to take away from their budget, buying clothes, taking trips, eating out. Understand? So they'll be able to still survive, but they ain't going to the restaurants. And what happens when that happens? Well, the restaurants go out of business, and that starts hurting your economy. That's just the beginning. Then they stop using the dry cleaners as much as they did. A lot of people put their Levi's and other things in the dry cleaner. Well, they're not going to do that anymore. So the dry cleaners start folding. If your town got 100,000 people and you got 25 dry cleaners and 12 go out of business, well, then the 12 that are still there can make it. Who goes out of business? Who knows? Location, I guess. So you start seeing Applebee's and Fridays and those places empty. People aren't going there anymore. So they close. Car dealers close. Nobody's buying more cars. Movie theaters closed, although a lot of them are already gone. I'm not sure. A lot of stores in the malls are going to be empty spaces. Okay. Now, your food is going to go up. Every food item you buy is going to cost you more. Maybe 20%, 15%, maybe 10%, but on every item. Everything you buy in the hardware store costs you more. All the clothes cost you more. Your shoes. Amazon and Walmart is going to cost more. Your home heating costs is going to be way up. Your electricity, in a lot of cases, is going to go way up. Now, what if it gets high enough? At 200 a barrel, you're probably at about $8 a gallon. But again, it might be 10. Okay. So you're looking at about 5 on roughly 100 a gallon. At doubles, you're probably at about 10 a gallon. Now, what happens at 10? It makes it even worse. It's like 8, but worse. Okay. Now, what if it goes up to 300? Now you're looking at $15 a gallon, like Hong Kong is today. $15 a gallon. That's curtains, guys. What if you're burning 4 gallons a day to go to work and come home? That's $60. That's $1,200 a month. How does that work? It doesn't. Okay. And that's what Trump's afraid of, because that'll collapse not just America, but countries around the world. What would Hong Kong do? They'd be paying $30 a gallon. How are you going to drive your car? I mean, could you imagine $30? You go get a tank of 20 gallons is $600, and you got to do that every week. Who's gonna? Nobody's gonna want to buy cars. People are gonna want to buy cars that get 45, 50 miles a gallon, and the dealerships selling new will raise the prices on those because they don't have an unlimited supply. They're not going to take a trade in on your car. I mean, you got a $45,000 pickup truck 6 months a year old. You'd be lucky if you got $8,000 or $10,000 for it. You might get 3,000. Somebody will buy it at a very low price because they say, "Well, burn it up in gas, but I'm buying it cheap, so it works out." So let's say you paid 45,000 and it's a year old. It probably normally would go for about 30,000, 28,000. It starts going for 8 or 10,000 or less. So people can't keep their car and they can't sell their car because of the payoff, and they're getting into a crunch. So what do? Goes there, they go buy a car, a little car that gets 50 miles a gallon, and then they give the car back, and now they got bad credit. They just say, "Here, I can make the payments," and the car gets repossessed. Then the company puts it at auction, and you owe them, let's say, $34,000, and they auction it for 9,000, and they're coming after you for the difference. They're probably not going to sue you because it probably costs them $2,000-3,000 to sue you, even if you don't respond. So what they'll do, maybe 5,000 even. So what they do is they just ruin your credit and they quit at that. They might send it to collection who calls you up on the phone and you hang up and stuff like that. You got, not only are you spending more money on gas, you're spending more money on everything you buy. Everything, your light bulbs go up in price, your shoelaces go up in price, soap goes up in price. Because why? Everything moves on ships, gas, diesel. Everything moves on trains, diesel. Everything moves on planes, aviation fuel. Everything moves in trucks and cars, diesel and gasoline. Forklifts and warehouses go on LNG, moving product around in the warehouses. That costs more because there's shortage of LNG, liquid natural gas. Restaurants got to raise prices. Wages are not going to go up. People are going to be laid off. The employers are going to, I'm not giving them any raises because if they want to quit, go ahead. I'll have somebody take their job in 5 minutes. There's no work out there. People need work because a lot of businesses are going to be closing. The car dealers are going to get slammed. New housing starts. There's people are going to be out of work. Who's going to buy? There's going to be a certain amount of investors that are going to say, oh, this is a great time. Let me buy houses cheap. But they're gonna be planning on sitting on them, and they're gonna get hurt. Gold and silver is gonna rise and rise and rise. People are gonna be scared. They don't want their money in the bank because they're gonna be afraid of a bank closure. They're gonna realize their money doesn't work anymore. It doesn't go anywhere. Okay. The money in America is going to buy less and less. And in a lot of countries, it's going to buy less and less and less and less. And scared they will be. And what do they do when they're scared? Well, they don't want to keep their money in the bank. Some people just take it home and throw it in a safe. They don't have that much anyway. Yeah, maybe they got 20,000. Oh, let me get it out of the bank and put it in. They'll do something like that. But what are the wealthy people do that got 500,000, a million? You don't want to put it in your house. But people are going to see their money's not going anywhere. I mean, it just gets weaker and weaker and weaker. Trump could bring the value of the dollar up, and the oil's being sold on the dollar, and the dollar goes up in value. Then you need fewer dollars to buy oil or gasoline, so it makes it look better. But he's not doing well with raising the price. The dollar's not gaining in value. Medical is going to go up. Insurance, healthcare insurance will go up. That'll be a slow one, though. What's not going to go up? The amount of money you got to pay to hire somebody. That'll go down, basically. That's the only thing that's not going to go up. Wages will go down, if anything, because there's going to be so much unemployment. What will the government do? Well, they'll keep printing money and they'll give people. I think unemployment insurance in some jurisdictions could get up as high as about $3,500. And that'll have to be higher. They'll have to make it probably $4,500 for families, and even $3,500 might get people to make it, but they can't make the housing payments. So they suspend the foreclosures. So you're running up a bill with the bank for your mortgage, and it runs up, it runs up, it runs up. And then when it's over, what do? You walk away. Because you owe $40,000 on a house. And if you go to sell a house, you're going to get $70,000 less than you owe. So you just see it's dead and you walk away, but then nobody wants to rent to you because you got bad credit. But when everybody's got bad credit, they're just going to ignore the credit bureau. Well, they're not going to sell anything to anything. They're just going to say, you got a job, let me verify the job, and then just give you what you want because it's. During the Depression in the United States, the banks would sell houses, rental houses to people that had a government job or a solid job, like a postal worker. The banks would loan him money to go buy rental houses, because they knew he was going to have a job a month or two later, you know. If you worked making roads for the government, same thing. If you worked as a clerk in the any government office, it didn't matter what it was, they'd loan you money. So that's why Iran is trying to do this. That's why they're hitting Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and all, because Iraq, and they want to crush America. They want to crush the world. They want the economies to kill them. He lifts the sanctions, gives them more reparations, lets them do what they want with missiles and nuclear. Then they stop bothering everybody, allegedly, and they go about their business getting rich again and then killing America or killing Israel. So you got to watch the prices here. The oil and the gold and silver prices are not going to cause problems for you because gold is not used that much where it's going to be a big problem. Neither is silver. It'll help maybe a few items in electronics and stuff. It's not that major. The big stuff is food because, you know, people spend their money on basically two things: food and rent. Okay, that's where their money goes. And food's going to go up. All right, so I'll get a prayer for us. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers. I pray for for us to have your strength, to have from you strength, stamina, and endurance, and your healing and recuperative power would flow through us, healing us as needed. And for us and our animals and pets, I pray we would be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. And I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I pray Israel doesn't get any more damage from missiles and drones. I pray for better videos, that I can do better videos in the future. I pray that we all understand the scriptures better. I pray that if any of us need work, like a job, we find a good job with good pay easily. And I pray that if we're kind of need clients, customers, we find that we get those. Uh, and I pray that we would stay strong spiritually, physically, emotionally, and just hang on and not get bitter or angry or mad. And we just hang on and wait for it to be over, which is going to be a long time. And I submit this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Uh, Okay, spiritual warfare. Let's just leave the world leaders alone right now with the spiritual warfare. Let's not add into it or anything. Just let it ride. Um, doing a great job of destroying each other. They're getting there really good. So I'd say let's just leave them alone for now. Um, and let's do the spiritual warfare for ourselves, you know. So my heavenly Father Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I loose from all of the true believers and their households and their families, any demon in any of these people, I loose out of it. It has to leave immediately, never to return again. And I loose off any of these people, any witchcraft or sorcery, target them, or any darts of the enemy is all lifted. No effects anymore. No, it's null and void, no value, no effect, shall never return. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. I don't always throw the demons out of the person that did the witchcraft because then they might know that you ended the witchcraft and sorcery. So I just end it and let them think it's going on and it's not. That's all. And you guys, if you're believers, you certainly should agree with this because where two or more on earth are, agree together, my Father in heaven does it. So he'll do it for us. That's keys to the kingdom. It makes our prayers more powerful, I would say, more potent, more powerful. So I don't know how many days this is going to continue, but I think Iran's going to not sit there for long. They're probably having a lot of debate, having dissension or arguments amongst themselves as to what to do next. They could try to destroy Trump's warships, but I don't know if they're going to do that or not. These are certainly interesting days, and they're not going to keep up forever. Okay, remember, he talks about the fig tree, and it says, when you see the branch like this, you know the summer is nigh. Well, I know I've said this in the past, but we're coming into summer, aren't we? In Israel. Maybe that means something. All right, I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. I hope you got something out of this, and I'm out. Thanks.